I am in a fruity mood today, guys. I got some Tazo Wild Sweet Orange here. It is one of my favorites. I have to be careful because sometimes I'll rip the tea bag. You don't want that because then you get all the little the little tea leaves floating around. Let me put it on here. I love how they have those little slits there to kind of keep the tea bag in place. I'm gonna go ahead and hit it with my fave. You know the drill, 3 pumps, no matter what I'm drinking. My old trusty French vanilla and or vanilla always comes along for the ride. So how are you guys doing today? Well, I'm feeling a little fruity. And a little optimistic today. Full disclosure, yesterday was kind of rough. It was kind of rough. We'll talk about it. But right now, I'm going to enjoy my sweet orange tea with a little bit of vanilla and some quiet time. Be right back. Hey, how are you? Yeah, I am back. I feel energized today. I'm so happy that I feel that way. But like I was telling you when I was making my tea, yesterday was a little bit of a interesting day. Had a bit of a downturn. I was okay. I was nice and mellow in my moods. I was just having a hard time getting off of stuck. And yesterday was Monday, and that's typically a day that I manage my finances. I call it my Money Mondays. And even though I have a really great system locked in that's supportive, that keeps me calm, I was having a hard time getting to it. And there was a bill that I really needed to get paid yesterday, or I might get some late fees attached. There would be a possibility that I'd be cutting it just a little too close. And even though I knew this, and even though I had a system in place, I was still struggling. And I think that's the part about living with, this type of processing that we have to be honest about. There are no perfect systems. And it's really about returning back and circling back around, And yesterday I really struggled. And I thought, I got to figure out what's behind this, even though I know it's sort of like trying to figure out why it rains. You already know it rains because we need the water. I already know why I'm having a hard time getting on. I have ADHD, okay? But I kind of wanted to see if I could sort of engineer backwards, I guess I'll say, and try to figure out the why so I can sort of figure out if there's another little support or scaffold I need to put in place that I can climb up on and use whenever I find myself in that situation. And after I sat quiet with myself and really thought about it, I think it's about cognitive load. Yep. It's about being so burdened by all of the thoughts that are going on in your head that it's just really hard to get it going. And there's a term for that, and I wondered if you'd ever heard of it before. And right now it's escaping my mind, so I'm going to see if I can look it up. Be right back. I'm back. I had one of those moments. It's called decision fatigue. I just had to take a moment away and think of the name of it. Decision fatigue. That's what it's called, decision fatigue. And I was in the middle of it, smack dab in the middle of it yesterday. And I was able to recognize, that's the first step. I was able to recognize, wait a minute, I think I have cognitive overload, and that's giving me some decision fatigue, some burnout. And now I just don't want to make any decisions. I don't want to use my brain to think about nothing. I just want to sit and stare. And it's one of those really interesting things where when you're used to being that go, 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 go energizer bunny, that when you hit these moments when you can't get yourself in gear to do something, it's sort of a weird feeling, and it's hard to understand it and to rationalize what's actually happening in your brain, what's going on with your initiative and your motivation. But there's a lot of quiet, invisible work that goes on in a busy mind. I mean, we're thinking about every stray random thought that passes through our head has to be turned over, looked at, and analyzed. No one can see you doing that. As they look at you, you look like you're just going through your day in a normal way. But in reality, if they were to sort of pull back the curtain and see how the engines are turning in your mind, they would see them whirling away at record speed, because it's processing all the information that's coming into your brain. Your filter's not on. And this leads to cognitive overload, too much going on in the brain, which creates decision fatigue. And I think I had a big case of decision fatigue yesterday. I did not want to make one more decision. And so I was delaying getting to my finances because I know that that's going to require me having to think. I'm going to have to prioritize. I'm going to have to sequence when I pay that bill. I'm going to have to remember where my password is. I'm going to have to, pull up the apps, and it's just the whole thing. It became a whole thing in my head. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about today, about what to do and what you're doing and how you're managing those days, what kind of grace you're extending to yourself. And I thought I would share what was helpful for me. What I discovered about the decision fatigue is that there were different times throughout the day, and research will back me up on this. There's different points in the day when my brain is having to make cognitive decisions, thinking decisions, problem solving, sorting, organizing, seeing patterns, differentiating, what's similar, what's different, all the stuff that the brain does. So by the time I get around to having to do the thing that I'm supposed to be doing, I have no steam. So this got me thinking, and I did a little bit more digging, and the information that I know to be true about people that have attention-based executive functioning issues is that all those little decisions that you make during the day, they have a tax, they have a cost. They don't look like they have a cost because they're invisible, but they have a cost. It's as if your brain is a bank, and every time it makes a decision, it solves a problem, a tax is paid. So even little decisions like, well, what am I going to eat today? What time am I going to wake up? Where am I going to go today? Do I put on the blue dress or the white pants? Any decision has a tax. Some taxes are higher than others, but they all have a tax. And so it just got me thinking about people like the big billionaires and how they govern their days. Not that I ever want to be on a productivity bro type of a vibe, because I believe in gentle systems for scattered minds. I think we need to be gentle. I did notice a couple things about how they function, and I know Mark Zuckerberg and I know Steve Jobs, they always wear the same thing every day. I mean, you're a billionaire. You could buy and wear anything you want, yet you wear the same. In Mark Zuckerberg's case, he used to always wear that same gray t-shirt and jeans, and Steve Jobs always wore this black, sometimes it would be like a turtleneck or mock neck shirt and jeans. And, when you look behind why they do it, a lot of people say, and I believe it to be true, it's because they want to cut down on all the unnecessary decisions that they have to make in a day. And they want to reserve all of their cognitive processing for the big problems. And so I thought, well, maybe I can use that advice on the days that I have to do my real heavy thinking. And I can make that work. So on a day that I know I have to get in there and pay the bills, then maybe I need to go easy on myself. Perhaps the night before, I can pre-plan some things and prep myself a little bit better. Wear the same outfit. Who's gonna care? You know, maybe eat the same thing on that Monday so that I have like a little routine and I don't have to think. I don't have to waste any of my cognitive power on those things. So by the time it's finance management time, I have some mental capacity, some bandwidth to do it. So that's what I'm gonna do. I had to just sort of white knuckle my way through it yesterday because I'd already spent my cognitive energy, but I still wanted to get the bills out so that I didn't get the late charge. So I just sort of white knuckled it through. But we don't want to live like that with cortisol spikes, because I'm sure I raised my cortisol level. And I'm sure I kept making mistakes because I couldn't really focus. You know, I had to keep going back and checking the number, and was that the right number? So I would have to go back to the credit card statement and go back to where I write the information because I just wasn't able to focus as easily and go back to the bank. It was a lot of back and forth because I was working on fumes, and I would get the numbers all mixed up and I'd have to keep going back. But now that I've really begun to appreciate this cognitive load and this decision fatigue, I'm gonna use it as a strategy to manage my very heavy days. Now, when you work a 9 to 5, which I do for the most part, it's not a full time because I do have some times that I'm off. But when you're at that 9 to 5, every day feels like it's a big day filled with cognitive things that you have to do. So how do we plan for something like that? You know, I was asking myself, well, how do I plan for that? You know, and I think there are times, if I were to be full disclosure with everything, when I go to bed and I'm not very organized about how my next day is going to be. And I have to wake up that morning trying to figure out how I'm going to, you know, manage that day. And there are tools that you can use to help you sort of organize and pre-plan. And that's what I do. I have a tool that I use that helps me kind of pre-plan what I'm doing for the next day. And that helps a lot because you wake up in the morning and you're kind of on autopilot, you know, as long as you can get yourself to stick to the plan, because that's another thing that we have trouble with, following through on plans. But once you kind of get yourself set up and you're used to, this is what I wear on this day, this is what I eat, you know, then it goes pretty well. Now, I don't wear the same thing on each day. It just sort of depends on what part of that you need to automate to decrease your cognitive load. But I wasn't wearing the same thing every day. But I would have a little routine that I do that kind of keeps me without having to think too much. And being at the morning table with my tea and my journal and my quiet time, it really is a neurological reset for me. That's why I do it all the time. It sort of centers me. And that's when my day sort of kind of organizes itself and I can sort of think clearly. So I try to make sure that I'm in this chair with my tea and my journal before I do the big part of my day, because this is kind of where I make my big organizing decisions. And I'm finding that I need to consider cognitive loads and decision fatigue even when I'm not working my 9 to 5, because Monday I wasn't working long hours. And so I wouldn't have thought that I had an issue. But even the little things that I did, the thinking that I did must have exacted a toll, because I really had a hard time getting my finances done. But we got them done. We got them done. We got them done. And that's what it's about. And I gave myself grace. I didn't let the ringmaster yell too loudly in my head. I just reminded myself that sometimes you fall off the horse. Sometimes the best laid plans don't go like we want. Sometimes the best systems, They don't always work, but I knew some strategies to do to get myself going, and I didn't use them. That's why I was white knuckling it through. But looking back, there's some things I could have done, right? I could have turned on some music. I could have gotten myself a second cup of tea, because that always seems to calm me down. I could have, taken a break for 2 to 5 minutes and just came back to my quiet place and then tried to come back to the financial task. But I didn't do that yesterday. I just sort of white knuckled it through. I just sort of forced myself to do it, and it was hard. And I made a lot of mistakes. And I probably took an extra half hour, maybe 45 minutes, with the lack of focus that I had. What I probably should have set some environmental cues to give myself some background fuel, some jazz or whatever you like. A little snack could have probably helped me get through. It just goes to show you, even those people that are really used to using strategies, and I am one of those, I use a lot of strategies, even those people that use a lot of strategies, and I think my strategies are really good strategies, but even people that use really good strategies have off days and off moments. We still have to extend ourselves grace, and we have to get back on the horse. So when Money Monday comes back around, the week coming up, next week, I'm going to make sure I'm prepared. I'm not going to do any heavy thinking on that day. I'm going to automate as much as I can. I'm going to have my certain little shirt that I'm going to wear. I'm going to Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg it, put on a certain shirt, put on a certain pair of pants. I'm going to eat the same thing for breakfast. I'm going to show up to my quiet time. I'm going to set the mood. I don't know if I'm going to use some soothing music. I think I'll use some soothing music. And then I'm going to just do my thing. That's what I'm going to do. So I hope this was helpful for you if you find yourself in one of those moments where you just can't get started. It's probably decision fatigue. You probably got cognitive overload. And you need to figure out how to automate some systems in your life. Gently automate some systems in your life, so you don't have to be thinking about all the different things you got to think about. So, but today is going well. I've not had any problem today, maybe because I took some strategies and I kind of had my day pre-planned a little bit better today, but I'm fine today. I think I'll be able to get to the gym. I think I'll be able to accomplish all the little tasks that I need to do, and I'm happy about that. I am. So I want you to be happy too. And I'm going to see you. I'm going to see you tomorrow. And I hope you have a great rest of the day. All right? You take care. Bye.